Deep Water by William Douglas. Good morning, dear students. Today we will go through the first part of the text. We will cover the text in 2 days. We have already learnt about William Douglas, the author, who has shared his own experience, his terrible experience of drowning, fear of water, and overcoming hydrophobia, fear of water, in the text. So, the text is written in first person because he has told about himself. And he tells us that when he was 10 or 11 years old, there was a YMCA pool in which he was learning to swim, and there he faced immense trouble. There was a Yakima river where he could have gone and learned swimming, but his mother was against it because there were many drowning incidents. Since he had no father, the mother was much concerned about her children. She would not let her son go into that dangerous river. The father was a loving father, and he had taken his son when he was 3 or 4 to the beach in California, where he had experienced fear of water for the first time because a wave actually knocked him down. But waves do come and they move off, and the little boy did not know that. So the father laughed. Father knew the truth. Father knew the ways of the sea. But the little boy's heart was filled with terror. But it was not hydrophobia. It was just a temporary fear. And he did want to overcome his fear. And he went to the YMCA pool, where he was learning by copying his friends, and he was learning to swim. So at this point, do register that there was no trainer. There was no trainer those days. And today it is compulsory. It is a statutory requirement that wherever there's a swimming pool functioning, a lifeguard has to be around. So since there was no guard, one day when he came all excited to the pool to learn to swim, a big bruiser came in, a bruiser of a boy. Bruiser is a bully. And this boy, 18-year-old, he picked him up, jokingly said, "How would you like to be ducked? How would you like to be ducked?" he said. And he threw him into the deeper side. Though it was not very deep, just 9 feet, but the boy did not know swimming, so it was very dangerous. Those 9 feet were more like 90. Have you ever experienced 9 minutes appear to be 90 minutes? Yes, when you are waiting for the teacher to hand you the question papers during examinations, those few moments that the teacher is holding the paper and not giving it to you, you feel they are 90 minutes, a long time. And we also experience vice versa. 1 hour vanishes as if in 5 minutes. And when does that happen? When you are at a picnic, when you are enjoying yourself, time flies fast. Here the time had slowed down. And he was a good strategist. He planned he would touch bottom and he would jump up. He believed that he would come up to the surface of the water like a cork. But that did not happen. It did not happen. His eyes came out, but not his mouth. Because if his mouth came out, he could have shouted out for help. But his mouth did not come up. He was breathless. His legs were like dead weights, paralyzed and rigid, not moving. A great force was pulling him under. The force of water was pulling him under. And he went down again on that back, sad, long journey down to the bottom of the pool. Fear is what he experienced. When he tried to beat the water around him, it worked like an invisible force in a nightmare which overpowered him. He tried to shout, but sound did not come out of his mouth. He felt dizzy, his head felt weak, and suddenly there would be flashes of wisdom. But I remembered the strategy, he says. I would spring from the bottom of the pool and come out like a cork and would lie down flat and stroke my arms and legs and reach safety. But that did not happen. He went down, down, down endlessly. He opened his eyes, saw nothing but water. Water with a frightening yellow glow. Dark water, yellow water. Yellow because it has chlorine in it. It looks a little yellowish in the sun. And then sheer stark terror seized me. Very, very effective description. Sheer stark terror. Sheer means only. Stark is total. There was only one feeling of total fear, total terror. And then, even in his fear, he remembered his plan to touch bottom, jump up, reach the surface, and walk out. But all this plan was useless because the water pulled him down and he was not strong enough to come out of the water. He was pulled deeper and deeper into the water. Fear felt like a charge, great charge of electricity. It was like a shock. It shook him terribly, like an electric shock. And then finally, his legs wouldn't move. He tried to call for help, to call for his mother, the only one who could save him, a 10 or 11-year-old child totally dependent on his mother. But nothing happened. And then strangely there was light. I was coming out of that awful yellow water, he says. My eyes were out. My nose was out too. But mouth did not come out. And he sucked water instead of sucking in air. The yellowish light was slowly going out. He was losing patience, he was losing strength, and finally everything ceased, stopped. He relaxed, his legs were limp, a blackness swept over his mind. Fear was wiped out, there was no fear, there was no panic, there was no tension. He felt peaceful. It was as if he was sleeping. He accepted death. He accepted defeat. No more struggle. Accepting the end was the only thing he could do. But as he did it, He felt relieved. He felt his mother was around with her tender arms, and now he was going to sleep. He crossed to oblivion. Oblivion means forgetting everything. And the curtain of life fell. Curtain of life fell. What figure of speech? Yes, metaphor. There's no curtain in life. It meant that Shakespeare said all the world's a stage and men merely players. So a curtain is appropriate. He died. He thought he was dead, but he was not. He did not die. Of course, he lived to tell us his experience. He lived to tell us this great story. He lived to motivate many, many readers. So we will stop here for the day. Now, what is your opinion about the bruiser, the 18-year-old? Describe the bruiser. He was beautiful specimen, strong muscles. He was very confident, rather overconfident, and he was proud, mischievous, and he was extremely careless. How do you think the boy William was saved? Yes, the bruiser saw him drowning. He went and called for help, and when he called for help, of course, somebody came and helped him, and he was saved. We will read that part next day, but you must look up the questions that are given here. What was the misadventure that William Douglas speaks about? Misadventure of being thrown into the water and facing near-death situation. YMCA pool you have to mention. He did not know swimming, must be mentioned, and he was thrown by the bruiser. What were the series of emotions and fears that Douglas experienced when he was thrown into the pool? What plans did he make to come to the surface? Touch bottom, push upwards, reach the surface of the water like a cork, and paddle off to safety. This was his plan, but it did not work. He could not breathe in the water. His legs were becoming heavier. Whenever he shouted, instead of sound coming out of his mouth, the water went inside and created the real trouble for the boy. So these are the questions you have to focus on for the day. We'll wind up the text tomorrow. Read through this part. Anything that you find difficult, we'll discuss tomorrow. Thank you, children. Thank you for your patient listening.